All good? I'm on? Excellent. Great. Well, so if that's what God's design is for us, if that is what looks like what it looks like or what we might be able to see happen, why did God design it like that? Wouldn't it be easier just to say we can all live individual lives, go on our daily life without really worrying about the person next to us, so that we all can take care of number one and let everyone else take care of number one, and then that's easier? Why did God design it that we should be in fellowship with each other? And in fact, Jesus prays, doesn't he, in John chapter 17, that we, as in God's people, would be one as he, Jesus, and the Father are one. And Paul, in his writing, makes it very clear we should be one. In Philippians 2, it says, "Then make my joy complete by being like-minded, having the same love, being one in spirit and of mind." One in spirit and of mind. So this is clearly God's heart. And we can see from that passage in Acts 2 that, that when the people came together, the design for the church was that they would be one, that they would be in fellowship, that they would be together. And then, as I said earlier, with John chapter 13, when Jesus says to his disciples, "Love one another. This is how the world will know that you are my disciples. Love one another." Why? You see, when the organised church, and I've been in kind of meetings like this, I'm kind of parodying it a little bit, but when we hear the command to love one another, immediately it's like, what plans can we put in place? Okay, what can we set up? What organisation can we do? What can we put in place so that people can see that we love each other? That we can be kind and we can follow those things. And again, they're good things, aren't they? But God is not after a behaviour modification in us. Now that does happen, but he's primarily after our hearts, isn't he? He's primarily trying to bring us into his family. And when we become part of his family, then things can change. So then we can change things, and then we can bring in ideas. But actually, the first thing he wants us to do is to come together as family. When Jesus prays that we will be one as he and the Father are one, he's basically saying he wants us to be a family. He wants us to fellowship together. And this is both in terms of status, so we know that we are children of God. We are children of the King. And therefore, we are all brothers and sisters. We are one family. Just as the Father is the same family as the Son. But also in the way that they interact. In the way that we interact together. That we might be one together. In what we do. In the way we think. In how we talk. That together we might be one as Jesus the Son and God the Father is one. I just want to read this passage again from Acts chapter 2. Because I think we can see that this is another way in which we can view why we do these things. Because it's not just what they do, they're just so passionate, aren't they? So let's read this. "They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship, to the breaking of bread and to prayer. Everyone was filled with awe at the many wonders and signs performed by the apostles. All the believers were together and had everything in common. They sold property and possessions to give to anyone who had need. Every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favour of all the people. And the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved." So how did the fellowship affect these people? How did them coming together, what was in it for them, as it were? How did it benefit them? Why was it worth it? Why was it not better for them to have gone their own merry way and for it all to happen on its own, for God to work his own thing? And you can see they were filled with awe. So the fact that they were together, they were filled with awe, the many wonders and signs performed by the apostles, because the apostles had their role, because the other members had their role, because everyone was doing their bit, they could be filled with awe at what God was doing through someone else. And instantly it's like, wow, God is so good. And I'm sure we've each got stories of like, we've come to church and we felt like we're discouraged, or we've gone to community group, or we've gone to various other things, and we've just seen that God he's shown up. He's shown up in that person's life. And I didn't think that was possible. Filled with awe. And the thing is, they were then together in a way that was like, well, if God can do that for them, he can do it for me. So they grow in faith. They're inspired to live like that. And they can see that he's got that role, she's got that role, I've got my role. And that's okay, we're together. We're building the same kingdom because God has given us this job. And clearly, excuse me, clearly as Paul's writing and he talks about the gifts in the church, he's saying that everyone's got their own part to play and there's not one more important role than the other, but actually together we can make a difference. And when we come together, it's good for you, and it's good for you, and it's good for you. It's good for everyone. See, fellowship can affect us. And how does fellowship affect our relationship with God? Because as soon as we see these things, as soon as we see what God has done through someone else, it's like, well, actually, if God can do that, I'm suddenly growing my faith. And these guys in Acts 2, look, every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. It's because of God. They broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts. They became glad and they praised God. See, they benefited in their relationship with God because they were together. They were praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. And they met together daily. Whenever they could, they got together in order that they could praise God and they would be able to be drawn closer to God in relationship. And then, how does fellowship affect the mission? The vision that we've got, and let's face it, every church has a similar vision. It might be worded differently, but it is essentially to go and make disciples. That's what God has said, what Jesus said to his disciples. Go and make disciples. Go and change the world through what I have done. And the reason is because he has given us a job to do to make a difference. And how does it benefit the mission? We see it right then. And the Lord added to the number daily those who are being saved. So when we come together, when we share fellowship, genuine fellowship, and we've come up with some ideas, that's great. And there might be things that we can change in order that we might come closer together. And when we do that, we might be able to more effectively reach those around us and make a difference to those in our lives. Wouldn't it be great to be able to say, the Lord added to our number daily those who are being saved? Wow. And of course it's God that does it. And he chooses to use us. And he chooses to use individuals coming together within a church. That's how it can affect the mission. It can make such a difference. And I just want to kind of finish by thinking briefly about what it means to sacrifice. We've mentioned that in some of the questions. Sacrifice something of ourselves. Romans 12, this famous passage. And most of you know that as Paul builds up to this famous passage, he's talking about the greatness of God. And then after this passage, he's talking about the body of Christ. That because of who God is, he's brought us together. And he says, therefore, I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. It's in view of God's mercy. It's because of Jesus. It's always been about Jesus. It is about Jesus, and it always will be about Jesus. When we have a close relationship with Jesus, then this fellowship thing becomes easy because we see his heart. When we have a close relationship with Jesus, we know what he's asking us to do. We can discern what his good, pleasing, and perfect will is because we can see it. We're with him every day. And together we can discern that and move forward in the mission to what he has given us. And that's what it means to sacrifice, isn't it? So as I said earlier, the kindness that we show each other, that's a great thing, and that shows some sacrifice. But it has to be more than that. It has to be that our lives are given for Jesus. And because our lives have been given wholeheartedly for Jesus, his heart is that we do this together. And that we become all that he desires us to be. And just a little bit on the situation that we're in North Bushy at the moment. In one sense, it's crazy. We have Baptists, Anglicans, Pentecostals, all meeting together at different points to say, Jesus is Lord. Because he takes center stage. And I can't tell you that everything we do, I like. I can't tell you that everything that we're kind of working towards, I think, oh, that makes sense. I can't say that. But what I can say is that Jesus has asked us to be in fellowship with other believers. And if Jesus is Lord, then together we can make a difference in our community. And so as we partner, as we discuss, as we move forward, if we are discerning God's heart, then we will see his kingdom come. And ultimately, that's what he's asked us to do, to bring his kingdom into this world. And so we're going to have a few more questions from this section. And they are, how can we draw closer to God's heart for Christian relationships? What might stop us from getting there? And what will you do differently because of what we have discussed this evening? Excellent. I'll leave you to it.